this week's episode of the On the Wagon podcast, the sobriety podcast with a shot of comedy. Very special guest today. My girlfriend is on the podcast, Jenny, and she's gonna tell us some stories about living with a drunk, basically. How do you, Jenny? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to get Jenny on here for one of these episodes because I think she was at the would you say the forefront of the battle lines with my drinking issues, I would say.
Yeah, but I think like the biggest thing was for me was I really didn't see the issue until I looked back.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with a lot of people is they sometimes are masked by it when it's happening during the time. But yeah, you stuck by my side, and now look at we're almost 6 months in. Coming up on May 1st, I believe I'll be 6 months in because I don't have the 6 month chip yet.
Yes.
And I gave my other sobriety chips right now to Jenny to hold on to the ones that I've passed, I guess you could say, right? Mm-hmm. So 24-hour sobriety, the 1 month sober, 2 months sober, 3 months sober. I have the 3 months one right now, I think, right?
Yeah.
So then I'll be able to give her the 3 month one. So today we're just going to do a short little podcast here. We are quarantined for another month in the state of Wisconsin, which is crazy. But we're going to make the best of it. And for those listeners who don't know, we run a business together, and business has been booming, right?
Yeah, it's been fun to be home together more, and yeah, business has been good. I've just enjoyed being home together with us and the dog, our little family.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Sorry, I gotta mess with this mic here. But we've made it through, and we're gonna do another month of 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and we'll see what happens. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about like when you first met me. All right, we met at a bar. You used to work at a bar. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts back then?
Well, so I knew you before we started dating, right?
Correct, yeah. I met you because she used to work at my favorite bar, which is still one of my favorite places to go eat and hang out and watch a game, though. So
I could not stand you when you were a customer and I was the bartender. And then we ended up talking when I was not working one night, and yeah, I don't know why I kept talking to you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not sure why either. But that was in my time, so I'm trying to think, like, those are the times, like, so it was like 2012, 2013, we started dating in like 2014. So those few years previous, I was pretty out of control, was pretty out of control leading up to our relationship. I had some bad, and I haven't talked about that episode yet, about like a couple of months before I met you, but I think you saw me that I'd like to drink a lot and have a good time, and sometimes became pretty obnoxious.
Yes, extremely obnoxious. Extremely. Yeah, the night I don't want to say met you because I knew you before, but the night I actually really got to know you, you were not really drinking that night, and it was pretty laid back. I was out with a girlfriend, you were out with the guys, and I don't even think we stayed out very late. It was just kind of a laid back night, but the second night we hung out, we went down to in your old apartments, and there was a bar downstairs, and we both got really, really drunk.
Yeah. The first two kind of times that we hung out, we got pretty drunk. We didn't really have a casual night out on the town. They were both pretty heavy drinking times.
And I think for me at the time, I was a little bit younger, right? So we're about 4 years apart. So I was still kind of going through that college age phase of going out. You were probably, it was still acceptable, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was becoming borderline. Like, the time was probably, what was that? Yeah, I wouldn't say really acceptable. I was 25, 26 years old.
Well, and I'm not saying it's acceptable at any time, but it's
once in a while if you're in a funk, I get it, like it's kind of post college years, but yeah, there's still there should have been a lot of growing up to do in that.
Yeah, time. And it was fun. We had a good time. We went out. We did stuff with friends, but at first I felt like it was kind of funny. Like you were funny. you would make jokes, you'd get drunk, you were kind of like the life of the party when you would drink.
Yeah.
You know, and and it was funny at first, and then it very quickly became not funny because I had to deal with it. I would say after we moved in together is when it started taking a turn.
Yeah, it got pretty bad. So when we moved in together.
Well, probably before that. Well, I don't know why. No,
I would say actually when we were still at the apartment, it wasn't bad. There was never any really bad times. I don't think.
Just obnoxious.
Yeah, but it kind of started to turn once we moved in together and we had this duplex and then it became times where you weren't always out with me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first, and you guys know dating. Usually when you first start dating somebody or with somebody, you usually bring them out along with you with your friends, especially at the age that we were at. But the times that became issues were times that I knew I was just going out with my guy friends, and then things seemed to turn when I'd get home.
Yeah.
Big issues were happening here were not coming home when I was telling you I was going to come home, and not saying that you never gave me a curfew.
Mm-mm.
But you would just kind of text to check up on me, and then I'd lie and then say, oh, I'm on my way home, and then I would come home 3 hours later.
Yeah, and it wasn't like we always had a very good trust. Like I always trusted you. That was never an issue. And I never felt like I needed to give you a curfew. Maybe I should have.
Yeah, maybe you should.
But it was like, I would get more worried than anything, like just, he would tell me he was on his way home, and then he wouldn't be home, and it'd be an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, and it was no response, nothing like that. So that's where I started to get worried, more so like, it wasn't that I didn't trust you, it was just that I was worried about you.
Yeah, and it kind of is weird. It kind of like worked in phases. So like when I first started, I think we were living together, coming home late. I would always just blast music. I'd put my headphones on and blast music, and just be really obnoxious and annoying.
I literally could have ripped your Beats headphones in half multiple times. I think I almost did.
I sold them.
Oh my gosh!
Not recently, but I sold them like a year or two ago.
Oh, they drew. He would lay in bed, and this would be nights when like. We would, like, I would not have went out and he did, which I should have saw that there was an issue with that, but, whatever. And he'd come home drunk and he thinks he's funny, so he turns up his headphones as loud as they go. He has them on. There's no reason for him to turn them up that loud. I can hear everything from his headphones that are on his ears, clear as day. And I'm trying to sleep. It's like 3 a.m. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then
drive me nuts.
So that happened. That was kind of a continuous trend throughout the drinking career.
The other thing you would do is you would rearrange the furniture.
Well, I was getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of like phase 1. Phase 2, I know there was a few instances where I thought I was in the bathroom and I was not in the bathroom.
No, oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
That didn't happen too many times, but I know on 2 occasions I thought the garbage can in the kitchen was the toilet, and I also thought the side post on our bed was the toilet. So there was 2 incidents with that.
Yeah, I was not happy about that.
I don't get how that happened, but I could find my way home, but I couldn't find my way to our bathroom.
But you would get up out of bed. That's the thing. Like, you knew enough to go somewhere, but why you thought you were in the bathroom and it was in the kitchen is beyond me.
And then I would say trend 3 would be that when I came home, I would take not all my clothes off, but whatever I was wearing, whether it was my jacket, shoes, socks, belt, I would throw that all kind of around the living room. That was always something where I find the next morning where everything would be sprawl out all over the living room. And that kind of transitioned into then rearranging furniture, I guess you could say.
Taking pictures off the wall.
Yeah, there was one time where I lined all our chairs in our hallway in a line, right? Or something. No idea why. Flipped couch cushions. I just
flipped my nightstand over.
Yeah, I flipped her nightstand over, which made a huge smash. That was a really bad night. Just some crazy things that like there's just no rhyme or reason. Like I don't know why I would rearrange the house. I don't know why. That's just weird. That's weird to me.
I don't know why I stuck with you all the time.
No kidding. I would have been out. I would have said, "See ya."
Gosh.
But I think
really loved you.
But I know there were some times too, like even like as of within the last year or two, of seeing like times when I was with you and you were out and we got home together and I'd like keep drinking and you would go to sleep. Like if we had maybe had a person over, like a after party here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we kind of talked about one 2 Christmases ago. We were supposed to go to your mom's the next day for I don't know. So it was either Christmas Eve or something, and you had a party here, and I was out. Came home, you still had some friends over, and I ended up drinking a whole bottle of red wine at like 3 a.m.
By yourself.
Yeah, why did I do that?
I don't know.
Just not good. So yeah, there was a lot of times like that. There was a lot of times where, and just as recently, and kind of the last time I drank, where you didn't know where I was. I didn't leave you a note. I didn't do, and it was a weeknight, and I just kind of shut off my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where things started to get pretty serious. Where like, okay, I could have been anywhere at that point, and that's not right for you not to know what was going on, and made you scared more than anything. Because I know if I was in your shoe, or if I was like the roles were reversed, I'd be absolutely freaking out. I'd be driving all around, and just worried for your well being.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I spent a lot of days driving around, or nights, I should say. But what's, I guess, the weirdest thing, like, looking back at all of this, it's like, how did I not see that this was an issue?
Yeah,
was I just in denial? Like,
I don't know. It's kind of, I always knew in the back of my head that I was a different drinker than everybody else, but I guess I didn't ever think about how much it was affecting my daily life.
Well, and
even it was affecting my daily life without even drinking. Like, even a few days, like, if I didn't drink for 2 weeks, it still affected my life. Whether it was my finances, whether it was my job, whether it was my mindset, whether it was my my exercise or my health, like a well-being or wellness. That all wrapped into affecting, even if I wasn't drinking, even if I took some days off of drinking, or even a month off of drinking. That drinking mindset and concept, and the physical allergy to alcohol was always lingering. So I think that makes sense. I mean, and it makes sense for you. You like to go out. You loved. I mean, before we met you were out a couple nights a week, but you're also younger and coming off a relationship and things. I get that, but I think we kind of just fell into that cycle where that's where we met out, and we kind of kept that party going until we grew up.
Well, and I think that's what I was going to say is where it changes. We would go out together, but then it got to the point where we weren't doing that, but you continued to do that. Or if we did go out and I'd have one drink, you couldn't just do that. And I think that's where it started to change. It wasn't fun anymore, and it wasn't funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it just,
I would say
it got out of it. Spun absolutely out of control. It spun out of control, I would say, 5-6 years ago, but it continued to spin out of control at a slower pace, but it was still out of control, if that makes sense. Because there wasn't as many times as it was happening, but those times that it was happening, it was the same things that were happening 4 or 5 years ago, just not as frequent. But that doesn't mean that it's that issue or that problem is still not lingering. What else was I going to ask you? I guess since I've been sober, what and I'm not trying to like put myself on a pedestal here, but what have you noticed about me besides not drinking? Like, have you, and I guess for like our listeners, like me not drinking for that long of a time, which I've drank for 12, 13 years, like that's a huge change in my life. And to be, coming up on 5 months sober, what would you say, or 6 months sober, right? Yeah, 6 months sober. I'm 5 months. 6 months sober here in May. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've seen change-wise out of somebody who's cut alcohol completely out of their lives?
There's a few things, but I would have to say just your personality as a whole has changed for the better. I mean, you always were a very good person, and I always believed you had a lot of potential for anything. And you had drive to do it and motivation, but you just didn't. I think, like you were saying, the alcohol just held you back from doing a lot of things that you always thought about doing. So I just really feel like you just really came out of your shell, and you weren't relying on alcohol as a crutch to like get you by. people still laugh at you. You're still funny. You're still humorous, because I know that was a thing you were afraid of, that people wouldn't think you were funny anymore because you wouldn't drink. You hanging out with friends. And yeah, I would just say not only have you became more motivated, but you also look, I don't know if that, you look a lot healthier as well. Like, I can tell in your face, like, just overall, I feel like you just carry yourself a lot more confidently.
Yeah,
Confidence.
I just think it's yeah, and that takes that took a while. The first couple months weren't easy. The first couple weeks weren't easy and still not easy to this day. And that's why, I always say on this podcast, it kind of just take one day at a time. Here we're stuck inside. And like we laughed yesterday where we went and bought what was it? That sparkling water that I thought was so good. It was citrus and green tea, just an excellent, refreshing drink. And the first thing that came to my mind is like, wow, how good would this taste with like a vodka and on ice? Like why would
you did say that.
Like that's just really weird. Like, and like, oh, I could still have this refreshing drink without booze in it, still put a piece of fruit in it and have it taste good. So I'm still learning on that, but I can say one thing, the cravings have been a lot less these last 4 to 5 weeks, I would say. And I don't know if that's just so much the stuff that's going on and knowing that I can't go to bars because they're not open. I'm like, where the heck was this a couple years ago?
But people, I think this is a hard time for people too.
I think a lot of people are struggling for that.
People are definitely struggling, and I think you are at a place where it's actually bettering you for that reason. But like, I think there are people that are struggling a lot with the situation we have going on, and the unsure about it, and just yeah. I
mean, look at the people that don't know what's going to happen with their jobs when the people go back to work. And I know the bars are closed, but alcohol sales are still doing good. You can still see people are going to grocery stores, liquor stores are still open.
And it's an essential business.
So people are drinking at home. There's no doubt about it. People just don't see that right now, and I think that's a big thing is, not just with people that have alcohol problems, but with mental health of this country right now. And I think that it's kind of scary because we don't see anybody, and that's why I always say, like, check in on people from time to time. Do Zoom calls, do things like that, because like even for the AA community, that's a tough thing for people who have gone to an AA meeting every day or every couple, once a week, twice a week for 20 plus years. Some of these people who are sober and they can't go to live meetings, and then they got to figure out Zoom. Like, that's a huge change. And that's their number one priority is staying sober. So I feel for those people that are struggling still, or the people that are in recovery like I am, who don't have an out right now besides Zoom, and so I feel for you on that, and hopefully everybody can stay sober and keep making through that. Kind of closing up the podcast, just want to do a short one here. What moment just sticks out in your mind of one of the times that I just irritated you so bad coming home drunk? Like the absolute, not even just the worst that you just wanted to say, I'm done with you, get out of here, which I know you didn't, but like
a couple times.
There's a couple times, like what irritated you the worst, I guess? Was it me just not shutting up? Because I used to do that. I used to come home and just blabble for
my God, you would just talk. The headphones were one. Get rid of the headphones. Stop talking. But I have to say, probably the one time that's sticking out to me is when I had to go into the bar in my pajamas to pull you out.
Yeah, well, let's kind of dive into this one, because this one's kind of a funny one. So this one,
it's funny now.
It's not funny. I guess it is, but we were at one of the local establishments downtown, and they had
taverns.
They had a DJ that night, and I was dancing, and I was out with the guys and people, and Jenny, I didn't have my car, which was good, but then I didn't want to take an Uber home, so I made Jenny come get me. And he wouldn't
answer his phone.
Wouldn't answer my phone. She was there in the parking lot waiting. I wouldn't leave, and I finally made her come in, and I think she was in her pajama pants, and that was pretty embarrassing for you and for me when you think about it, but that's how much you love me and came in and did that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some days it's like I look back, I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's one thing too.
What
it's
in
like
the world?
It's one thing like in the world of that you'd be considered like, what is it, a codependent or an enabler?
I guess.
I never thought of you like that, and I didn't. But
I never thought of you as an alcoholic.
Right. I guess you just get so wrapped up in the whole thing, like. But I guess in a way that you kept letting me do that in your own way. and I kept taking it because I knew I could get, it might be bad the next day for a bit, but I knew we'd always be better the day after. Mm-hmm. So I guess that is kind of a codependency.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that joke that I tell to end the podcast because I always think it's
the toilet one.
The toilet one, but I can't think of it.
What's the difference between?
It's what's. I don't know. Let me look it up real quick.
I think that another thing that, like, coming from my perspective, am I allowed to talk in my perspective?
Yes, we want. That's why you're on the podcast.
Okay, just checking. I think it was interesting for me when you first stopped drinking. I don't want to say that I wasn't supportive. I think I was supportive, right?
Yeah, I think this is good because good thing that I had to look up this joke because we didn't get into this. I think you really struggled of like, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people that live with people that have a drinking problem.
Do I have to stop drinking?
Right. Well, no. That's what I think.
That's what
you had a lot of thoughts came out like, oh, can I go? If I go, we go out to eat the few times that we do, just because I don't.
He doesn't go out to eat. Yeah.
But after this, we're turning around.
He says that every time.
But even though like, oh, can Jenny have a glass of wine? Yeah. At first, I don't care that she drank, but it was more of like looking at that drink.
Yeah.
But I think Jenny.
I felt like I was almost like mocking.
Yeah, and I think you've been a lot better now. Like I know you've had a few drinks at home even when we play board games at night or something. And I have no problem with that. I pop in a coffee or have a, one of our NA cocktails.
And the one thing we do is I think that I do is if I'm gonna have a drink or if I just choose, I've drank it a lot less. To be honest, since you. Stop reading the joke. I'm trying to tell something that's kind of serious.
Yeah, I know.
But I feel like I've limited. Not that I drank a lot, but I don't drink nearly as much.
No, you don't, and that's
Not that we drink a lot at home, but
you also weren't drinking as much even when I was still drinking.
Yeah, but I would say I don't drink that much anymore. But even if I do, or if I'll decide to make us drinks, I'll make mocktails or non-alcoholic drinks, and like I'll put ice in there. I'll put them in a wine glass or a glass that you drink a drink out of and make it fun. Like we can still have fun. We can still have like fun cocktails and mix up drinks. They just don't have to have alcohol in them.
Yeah. And that's just one thing and as the one thing I've learned, I've learned so much being, not having drinks and not drinking is like, I truly have a true addictive personality.
Yes.
Like it is not even like it is
with everything.
With everything. And I love drinking coffee. I love, what else am I eating?
You like to eat.
I really like to eat. I like to exercise and work out. Like I'm really addicted to like running and that runner's high.
And I'm not.
Yeah, and that, but that there's things I get right, and it even boils down to freaking TV shows like. Now I'm addicted. Now I'm addicted to rewatching Bar Rescue episodes. Like,
I know I'm in
that thing,
weird.
and I'll get this thing like, oh, I gotta watch the whole Entourage series, and I'll watch all the DVDs.
And I have none of that, like no addictive personality at all. I never have, and I feel like some people just have more tendency to have that. And it's probably, I'm sure it comes down to how your brain is wired and your chemicals in your brain and things like that.
But that is a true sign of, or that is a true thing with my alcohol, because I truly got, like, once I had it and knew I could handle it for the most part, I wanted more and more of it, and it just kind of, as the years went on and I got older and I couldn't handle the alcohol, that's when the problems were coming into play. Mm-hmm. The first few years of drinking, it was great. Never did anything stupid. Never didn't get in trouble really.
I almost break up with you. That was
never was really hungover the next day. Like you're just young, your body can handle it. But then when your actual body can't handle it, and you keep drinking at that rate, that's when the blackouts come in.
Because it's years and years.
That's when the getting sick comes in. How many days did I lay in bed till like 9:00 the next day? Remember some
all
of those
day.
There were some days too where we went out together and then we just lay around. But it was becoming more of me laying in bed all day and not being able to eat till like 8:00 at night, and you'd be productive on Sunday. That's one thing I'll never miss is I hated giving up my Sundays because of alcohol, but yet I still picked alcohol every time.
I think it just was like one of the biggest things for me is were we going to even be able to like go and function as a couple? Go to a wedding, go to events, hang out with our friends. Can we go to a bar together? Like, what is this? What does our future look like? Am I going to miss having that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I felt like coming from me. Yeah, I don't know.
And I still want to go, like, when I get back, like, when this all gets, with this whole, shutdown thing, I still want to go to bars. I still want to go out with people. Because now I think I'm at a point where, like, it's got to be I shouldn't say that. It's got to be a bar that has, like, food. Like one of our favorite places. You know what I mean? I can't just go to one bar that doesn't have that. So I can at least have an option there. But I think that's the biggest thing. Is like I still want to go out and be social.
Yeah.
I just pick different things off the menu, and I'm glad that now, like, I'm glad that's how I told everybody, in February about what I was doing, because I don't want them to feel pressured or be weird around me out there. But I'm gonna make that decision. But I just don't want anything to change. I'm just not getting blackout drunk.
Yeah, and I guess that's what the biggest thing now, living this for, being on the other side of it for 5 or 6 months, things didn't change. Things got better.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it was scary because it was going to be different. It was going to be different. It wasn't going to be the same, right? Like it was, our life would change. Our life would be different. But I mean, it changed for the better. We still hang out with friends. We still do things. I mean, not now because we can't leave the house, but I mean, we still do things. We still go to weddings. We still have fun. And I've probably enjoyed this last 6 months more than our whole relationship.
Yeah, I just feel better. I just feel better. Like I said in previous podcasts, I'm gonna miss the times I had with friends out, of course. But you get to that age where it's like, it's not worth it, and it's not responsible. You know what I mean? It's just not. And
it's like kind of like getting a new part of your life, or like starting a new chapter.
Because that's what I thought about that for a few times too. Like, why can't I just have two? Mm-hmm. Why can't I sit around a fire on a summer night and have two? Because I know two is not going to do anything for me, and two is not going to be enough. Mm-hmm. And that's where I just differ. People can enjoy a beer grilling burgers and brats. I find that, I still think to this day that's stupid. I said, why would you just want to have one drink? Or why would you just want to have one? Because I know that's not going to do, like, you're not getting any of the alcohol in.
Yeah, see, I drink it to enjoy the taste of it.
That's why I'm just different. And that's why I'm a different drinker, and that's why I stopped. But I got to tell you this joke. So when I heard this joke, I listened to the sober podcast every day since I've been sober. I've played it, and I don't always play them in full. It's called the Sober Cast. It's an AA meeting and a podcast. Sometimes I listen to a podcast up to a point where I heard something in the podcast that's stuck with me, and I end it there because then I remember that last thing. I listen to the whole thing, but a famous alcoholic, he's an actor, I can't remember his name, but he's been in a lot of TV shows and movies. He went to this AA stand-up speaker meeting, and there's a ton within the AA community of jokes. There's jokes and funny stories. Like, he just keeps it light and funny.
Which, can I say something? I'm like, he'll like be listening to this stuff at home, and it's like I'm not part of it, and I don't get the jokes.
Yeah, it's just, but it's
like,
funny.
It's like your own little group, and I don't.
I just one off the top of my head before I end this one, because one's like this guy is always drunk driving. He's always drunk driving, and got a couple drunk drivings before, and he all of a sudden he's driving on a road and runs off the road and hits a tree. Gets out of the car. He's okay, but his car is totaled, and the first thought of was like, oh, I should have took the 405. Like, he didn't think of wrapping his car around a tree. He thought about, wow, I took the wrong road. That's why I wanted to get in the accident.
But he was drinking.
But that's how an alcoholic's mind thinks. They're like, oh, I just got in this accident. I totaled my car, but and all of a sudden I'm going back thinking about my OWI. The first thought was, I should have taken Highway 41. Isn't that crazy that the same exact mindset and thinking I had in that? Because I said, well, I probably would have been safe if I would have taken 41, which is probably true.
Well, yeah, but something worse.
Yeah, something worse could have happened. I'm not saying, but think it there. I mean, there was a good. it's funny. But here I'm going to end this podcast on. I'm going to say a swear word here, but I just think this
I'm
is...
going to say a swear word.
I just thought this is hilarious. And I laughed so hard the way he delivered it. I won't be able to deliver it the same way. All right, Jenny. What is the difference between a toilet and a codependent?
I don't know, Dan, what?
A toilet doesn't follow me around after I shit all over it. Get it?
Yeah, I get it. Am
Because
I
they
that?
codependent. Well, you always. That's what a codependent is. You shit
Yeah, I
all
don't
over
get
it,
all
then
your jokes.
You make their lives a living hell the night before, and then the next day you're following me around and saying, "Oh, I love you so much."
I didn't do that.
I know. But this was a fun podcast. Jenny, thanks for coming on and kind of giving an insight on to what it was like living with me and how it is now and hopefully what it is living for the future. Any last thoughts you want to leave the listeners for this week's episode?
I am so very proud of you and everything you've accomplished in the last 6 months. And I know we have a lot more months and years ahead of us of positivity and soberness, what's the word I want to use? Sobriety.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm just excited the day by day, and like I said, it's I know it's, you never know. Like, I can't say I'm not going to drink again, but I don't want to drink again, and just take it day by day.
You're still funny.
Yeah, I know. You still laugh. You still laugh
I
at my
still
joke.
laugh at you.
All right, that's the end for this week's episode. Next week, we will figure out something now that we're stuck inside for 4-5 more weeks. But really want to try to get some more interviews and try to get some other people's stories to come on.
We should come up with some like a live mocktail.
Yeah,
like making some
maybe we'll
different
do that.
drinks.
Maybe we'll do a live mocktail episode where we just get some non-alcoholic
Recipes
drinks and talk a little bit and have a good conversation.
Yeah, that'd be good. I like that idea.
All right, On the Wagon podcast. Remember to download and subscribe on iTunes. If you haven't already, I know I've been putting the word out a little bit more. Please rate and review the podcast. The more we get, the more the better. I'm always looking for sponsors, so have the last 2 weeks been putting in some pitches into a website that I found to try to get some kind of sponsorship role in here for this podcast. Since we've had some very good, I don't know, not recaps, but response to the podcast. People are listening, and that's what I wanted the whole podcast to be about is have some laughs and help some people as we go along.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good rest of the week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will talk to you next week.